Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. Today, we are going to talk about resiliency. We're going to wait a couple of minutes more for people to continue coming in. And as you start just settling down and staying here, lots of things going on in your day. So maybe just slow down for a little bit, take a little breath, and just be ready to start working on yourself, talking about things that are extremely important in these days. Now more than ever, so important to talk about resiliency. So you can just make a little summary of what we talked about last time. Last week, we talked about our mind. We talked about the importance of awareness, but that awareness is not everything. Giving meaning to things, giving meaning is extremely important, is the second part. And all these are also part of cultivating resiliency that we're going to talk about today. So let's start by talking a little bit about what is resiliency. Resiliency is the capacity to bounce back from stress. So it's not the absence of stress or the absence of a stressful reaction, but it's how fast we can actually come back to our center. How fast we can overcome difficulties, right? So if something stressful happens in your life, right, and you find yourself stressed, anxious, and kind of it keeping going in your mind, right, for days, that is a sign that there is definitely something that you need to work on, right? There are certain resources that you need to develop. So today we are going to talk about what those resources are and how to get them. And we're going to do at the end a small meditation practice to help you develop and strengthen this sense of resiliency. So we also know that when we are resilient, when we have developed this capacity to come back to our center, we are able to recuperate faster. And that has a big impact in what is trauma. Because if we can come back, we can feel the stress and then come back, feel the pain and then come back, right, to a place of calmness and regulate our nervous system so we don't stay constantly stressed. Our nervous system is not constantly activated, right? We reduce the risk of developing anxiety issues, post-traumatic stress disorder, that type of disorders that involve a long state of staying in this place of activation. Your nervous system is activated in this fight or flight response. And sometimes what happens is that when we can't fight or we can't fly or we can't remove ourselves from the stressful situation, our nervous system goes into a paralysis state. And that it can be a profound depressive state. So it's really important that we recognize and learn how to come back and how to let go. So letting go is important. And it doesn't mean that the thoughts might not be in our mind, because we might still be thinking about certain things, but the emotion that is connected with those thoughts is not as intense. We are not in that state of intense stress and survival where we are extremely reactive, right? We can think about things in a calmer way. And what happens when we're able to do this is that actually we become way more creative, right? So it can be a great opportunity, for example, in terms of business, when right now with the economy and everything that is going on, when we feel completely stressed and we are kind of at the brink and we notice that, right? We're in this survival mode. The solutions that we can come up with, they just don't come. Like that part of our brain is not working, right? Whereas if we are calm and we are settled, we can actually be more creative, and we can innovate, and we might, it can be an opportunity to do many things, to learn more things, to connect with certain people, to reinvent your business, your relationships, whatever it is that you would need to change or improve in any way. So there's one thing that is important to talk about. It's in our frontal lobe. We have the capacity to have this sense of time. And with this sense of time, we can anticipate the future, and we can also reflect on our past. Now, the anticipation of the future is a good thing because it can allow us to have a goal and to work towards something. So it gives us like a purpose, right? So for example, when you want to have a career, right? That's your goal. And you are going to work through things, and you might, do things that are not particularly your favorite, right? But you do them anyway because they have a meaning. There's a purpose that's bigger, right? And you're able to do that. You're able to see that in the future. And the same with the reflection of our past. That is extremely important because it's with the reflection of our past that we might recognize moments that have shaped us in certain ways, moments that maybe we haven't fully grieved, we haven't fully processed, places that, might be triggering stuff still today. And if we don't have that reflective capacity, right, to look back and notice and give a different meaning to those experiences as to what they mean to me today. And they also give me a purpose, right? What is it that I need to work on? What is it that I need to cultivate and grow within myself, right? Now, the thing is that this frontal lobe can also get us in trouble, right? Because we might be constantly worried and preoccupied about the future, right? So that is triggering our stress, and we are feeling in danger when it's all in the future. It's not happening right now, right? But living in that future, preoccupating and just being in your head triggers that sense of danger right now. And also we can be ruminating on our past and just bringing back and living in the past, and it's just difficult to let those past experiences go, right? It's just they keep coming back and keep coming back, and that is typical of trauma. But it's important to recognize that and to be able to provide ourselves with resources to disconnect from it in an emotional level, because it's not a rational thing. It's not something that we can decide to do and we will do rationally, right? So the thing is, when we are either ruminating on the past or we are preoccupied on the future, is that we become hijacked and with all these intense emotions, and our primitive nervous system is activated, and we are in this state of intense stress. It's the fight and flight response, and it's happening right now. We are in danger right now, and it's really not happening. It's an act of our mind. So it's important to understand, and we talked a little bit about these things, like there are certain things that help us enhance our resiliency, and they have to do with the sense of connectedness, connecting with support systems, with our family, with our friends, having that felt sense of connection. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this in a little while. And just recognizing also the things that we do have, and things that we just being more open and aware and paying attention to those things that exist and that are important for us to grow inside and to grow in relationships and just make them stronger and bigger. Because as we talked about last time, our mind tends to focus on the negative. It's called the negative bias of our mind, of our brain, and it does that for protective reasons. So just making sure that we are paying attention to all that we want to cultivate. So how do we develop resiliency? So one thing that's really important is it's called interoception. Interoception means the capacity to look inside, but feel inside. What happens in your body and how your body feels inside. And it's a different feeling than this feeling, the inside feeling. So that is interoception. It's my internal perception of what is going on and what do I notice. And in order to do that, we have to pay attention. We have to fill our awareness with the sensations in our body. And this is a way also to calm our mind, right? So sometimes our mind is just going and going and going and going. And it's interesting how observing our thoughts can actually calm our thoughts down. When you are thinking and thinking and thinking, and it's kind of this observer that we have, like and we call it like the inner, your mind's eye, right? So this, that can see inside and just notice what's going on. Just observe, just paying attention to your thoughts, right? And notice what happens. Usually it starts calming down, right? So meditation is a very useful tool. And when we think of meditation, or when I used to think of meditation, it's just this, sitting down and having your legs crossed with like this position. But actually, meditation takes many different shapes. And there's many different ways of meditating. Meditating is the capacity to stay in the here and now and focusing again to what is going on in your body. And the deeper you go in this meditation, the brain waves change, and a part of your brain, that's the verbal brain, it's disconnected. So there's no words anymore. There's no verbal anything. It's just being in this state that you are. So that is definitely just calming your mind down. And what that does, right, it's deactivating that part of your nervous system that gets activated when you're scared, right, and takes you to being reactive and stressed and anxious and all these different things, right? So it's deactivating that, and it's taking you to a place of just being and feeling safe and connected with yourself and with others, right? Because you're in this kind of state of just being with all beings, just a being state. So there's a very interesting research I wanted to share with you about the importance of meditation. I think there is tons of research that shows how positive meditation is. And I think meditation is being more and more accepted. But still, there's a lot that we need to learn about it. And many people say, oh, I can't do that. I just don't do that. It's, I can't stop thinking, and it's not my thing. And hopefully, meditation will start to be part of what we do, part of our lives. So here's a little research, and this research has to do with pain, and it has to do with resilience, because I was telling you that resilience is the capacity to go back right? So when your nervous system is stressed, when your nervous system is, and stress can be pain, right? Physical pain is a way of stress. Coming back to the center. So what these researchers did was they had all these people. And what they did was they put this little block of metal. And through that block of metal, there was water ran. So they could control the temperature. And it was hot water. So they determined the perfect temperature where it's painful, but it doesn't actually cause harm to your skin. But you can feel the sensation of burning. And they strapped it. So you can't remove the pain. You can't move away from the pain, right? And the pain would last for 10 seconds. And one more thing is they said, well, there's going to be a beep. And after that beep, this is going to start warming up. And then, so you have to report the pain. And what they did was actually they looked at the brain's response. So what they found was very interesting. So they had two groups. They had a group of meditation practitioners. They had been meditating for some time. And they had a group of people that didn't meditate. What they found with the group of people that didn't meditate is that when the people went on, their brain responded as if the pain was happening, but there was no pain really. So it went up. And then when the pain started, right, it continued up there. And then when the water just cooled down, right, so after those 10 seconds, they had a really slow curve into coming back to, let's call it, to center, right? What they found with the meditators is that when the peep went on, beep, there wasn't any response in their brain. They had a response when they felt the pain. The brain had the pain response. And what's interesting is that the pain response was even higher, more intense than the pain response from the other participants. So it went high. And then when the pain stopped, it went back down. So that is exactly when we're talking about resilience, right? It's that capacity to come back. Once this is over, it's over, right? We don't continue with it. So I want to talk a little bit about the importance of paying attention. Paying attention and being in the moment. Because that is key to when we are, for interoception, for example, it's key to just pay attention. And it's also important to pay attention to whatever it is that you're doing. Again, trying to focus, right, on what it is that you want to cultivate and finding, right, the good in things. This is another research that I found fascinating about attention and happiness. So they asked, this is in research in the US, and they asked, it's done with adults. And they asked adults where their mind was right now and how happy they felt. And they found that 47% of the time, so these individuals reported that 47% of the time, they are not paying attention where they are, what they're doing. And there was also a correlation between paying attention and the sense of well-being. So just think of that. And as I was reading this, I was like, yep, I'm there, even with your children. Like how many times they're talking to you and you're like, yeah, your head is somewhere else, right? You're worried about work, you're worried about what you're going to do for dinner, whatever that is, right? But you are not there. You are not there. So this practice, right, has to do with learning to be more present, right? More there. There's this saying, a wandering mind is an unhappy mind, right? So it's important. When I hear this, the unhappy mind, I think of I come back to the negativity bias, right? When we have a preoccupied, a worried mind, we have a scared mind. And scared minds tend to be more pessimistic and tend to be looking and searching for what is potential danger, but they don't perceive it as potential danger. It's perceived as actual danger, right? This is what is going to happen. And it's the worst thing, right? It will happen. It is. So there's already that sense of all these bad things, and then all these bad things in the future, and then all those bad everything is, you know. So it's so important to recognize what is going on inside of us. Not only, we were talking a little bit about introspection, but also in terms of our thoughts. What is our inner dialogue? What are we saying to ourselves? What is our story? What story do we tell ourselves about ourselves, about what we mean to others, about our feelings? You know, when we have feelings, how do we relate with them? Do we get mad at ourselves for feeling certain feelings? Are certain feelings not allowed? What do I mean to others? I was listening to Tara Brach, and she talks about the trance of unworthiness, right? Living in this space and believing I'm not worthy, I'm not important, I'm not enough. And that is who we become in relationships for us, right? So it's really, really important to pay attention to our inner dialogue, to what is happening inside of us in terms of sensations, in terms of thoughts. And this brings me to this capacity that we humans have that is called meta awareness. We have the metacognition, the meta, which is our capacity to be aware of awareness. That would be the meta awareness. Metacognition would be our capacity to think and reflect on our thoughts, right? So we can do that. And this ability to notice that we can notice and what we're noticing and what it's like to notice is extremely important to develop. I don't know if you have ever, this has happened to me many times. Actually, last night was one of those times. I was reading my book and 1 page, 2 pages, and I realized I wasn't there. I had no idea what I had read, right? So that was my meta awareness coming up, recognizing that my awareness wasn't there and bringing it back, right? And focusing on what it was that I was reading. So there my meta awareness came back to play. This is very important because it has to do a lot to do with depression, you know, this lack of attention on what we're really doing that has to do with being purposeful, right? This the trance of unworthiness, right? And how that feels, right? And not really focusing on our feelings and our sensations and feeling trapped. How I was telling you, that leads us to a different part of our nervous system, right? That leads to paralysis. And this leads to a profound sense of depression, you know, and depression has increased drastically. In the US, there's a 33% in the last years of increase in depression, particularly in women. There is a difference, a gender difference. And something else that is extremely alarming is the increase in depression in teens, preteens from 12 to 17. And again, more so in women than men, but in both. And we know that depression leads to suicidality. And we know that there has been a tremendous increase in suicidality, particularly in teenagers. So this is something that we really need to pay attention to for ourselves and for future generations. Hopefully, this is something that we can teach our children, and we teach through what we do, right? Through example. That is the best way to teach anything, you know, not to say it, but to do it, to live it, to feel it. And that does take me to something that we're going to talk about. That's not only knowing all these things, right? But in order for us to really change and for our mind to fully change, to remember, I don't know if you've heard of the term neuroplasticity, right? Now we know how our mind, how literally the structure of our brain changes through experience, right? There are neurons that die and neuronal pathways that die if you don't use them, right? And there's others that you can develop, and there can be neurogenesis, right? Neurons that can grow and create new neurons and create new neuronal pathways. So what we want to do is to create those that lead to more self-awareness, to more connectedness, to more resources, right? To know how to soothe myself, to know what it is that I need when I'm feeling imbalanced, right? Recognize that I'm feeling this way, slow things down, come back, listen kindly, gently. Self-compassion is so important, and it's something that we don't do. We are usually we can be compassionate towards others and kind, but not to ourselves, right? And just taking wherever we are and listening to that, because that tells us what it is that we need. And then learning how to provide that, right? And that's how we learn to self-soothe and regulate, and kind of not let our mind be hijacked by these other intense, reactive responses that come from a different part of our brain, right? So when the storm hits us, we are just left with what we have. The good thing is that we can learn to be aware of what we have. So what is it that I have can tell me a little bit of what it is that I want to cultivate, what it is that I need to develop further, right? So our mind does have the capacity to change. It's a matter of taking time and giving time to cultivate what it is that each one of us, and there's not, oh, we need to cultivate this one thing. Each one of us knows and has a different need, right? It can be kindness, it can be compassion, it can be patience, it can be whatever that is that's important to you and you want to cultivate, right? It can be self-compassion, it can be loving kindness towards oneself, right? So if we recognize that we have this very loud, critical voice, right, coming up telling us, oh man, you did this. How could you do that? How could you say that? Da, 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 da. You're this, you're that, right? It's very, very critical. So just noticing that. Oh, maybe there's something that I need to cultivate to calm that part of me down. Because usually inner critics come from a place of fear, right? A fear of being rejected, a fear of being abandoned, if we feel how we feel, or if we believe in what we believe in, or do, you know, whatever that is. If we are who we are, right, we will be rejected. And we've learned that somewhere along the way. And we've just built this inner critic that what it does is just judging us in a way for us to prevent from being and expressing, because according to that voice, you'll be rejected, right? They'll see that you're flawed in some way. So this leads me to something that's really important, because the inner resources, whatever it is that we need to cultivate, right? That becomes a purpose, right? And it's really important, like I was talking about at the beginning, to have a purpose, because that gives you a sense, that gives you a goal. Okay, this is, and it also gives you a purpose every single day, right? So whatever that is, right? Kindness, notice when it's there, right? So for example, right now, being with me and listening to how you can cultivate resilience. This is something, this is an act of kindness. This is you taking care of yourself, right? So just letting that in, right? How is it like to spend time for you, for something that matters to you, right? How does that feel? And this part of how it feels is extremely important, because it's not only recognizing something, right? Oh yeah, it's there. If we don't feel it, and if we don't stay with it, it's like really taking its juice out and taking it in, right? Then it doesn't stay. It'll go, right? So it's very important to really fully enjoy those moments and to find them, to look for them, right? In everything that you do, there's something, right? So there's his name is Dr. Richard Davidson. He's a psychologist, and he does a lot of meditation, and he's done a lot of research in the importance of cultivating space for meditation in everyone's life. But he talks about how we need to practice this every day, right? We need to practice this interoception and notice what's happening inside of us every single day. And he talks about the brushing the teeth. So he's like, well, at one point in life, right, we humans didn't ever brush our teeth. Today, a good percentage, I'm hoping it's the majority, right? Like brushing teeth is part of our daily routine. It is not questioned that brushing your teeth is good for your health, right? And it's something that you need to do every single day. And if you don't brush your teeth, right, they will rot. There's all these things that will happen. So brushing teeth has become part of our life. So normal. It's there. So his hope is that meditation becomes like brushing our teeth. And my hope is that too. So we were talking about just staying in the moment and being in the moment and letting it in and really soaking it in. And I would like for us to practice a little bit. So I wanted to guide you in a short meditation, just nurturing that sense and practicing, right? That coming inside and being with ourselves and just noticing positive resources. So what I would like for you to do is just gently notice where you are. Just be aware of the room where you are. And if there's, some, because of the COVID, we might not be able to be in a isolated room, and that's fine. You can just notice and notice our space. Just notice everything that you can hear. Just pay your attention and just allow sounds to fill your awareness. And very gently notice breathing and allow the rhythm of your breathing to fill your awareness. And very gently, as you begin to relax, you can close your eyes. If you don't feel comfortable closing your eyes, you can just choose a spot wherever that is and just focus and notice. And just begin to relax. And just notice your exhalation. And just how you can expel, tension as you exhale. So just notice that release of tension with every exhalation. And now, place your attention on the normal flow of your breath. Just allowing to focus on your breath, leaving any thoughts that might be coming up, just very gently coming back. Just noticing thoughts as they come up. And gently letting them go and coming back to the rhythm of breathing in and breathing out. Now call to mind someone you love very deeply. In your mind's eye, see the face of that beloved one. Just notice their facial expression. That look in their eyes. And silently speak his or her name. Feel her love for this being. And just notice how this love feels like this current of energy just coming through you. Now let yourself experience how much you want this person to be free from fear, your intense desire that they be free from sorrow, free from suffering. And notice that desire with all the sincerity and strength that is loving kindness. So notice that warm energy flow coming through your heart. Bring your attention to your heart. And see in your mind's eye all those with whom you share your daily life. family members, maybe colleagues, friends, people you live with, people you work with, maybe people you swim with. And allow them to appear as a circle surrounding you. Behold them one by one, speaking their names, saying, and direct to each one of them this loving kindness, this loving energy. And perhaps among these beings, there may be some with whom you might have conflict or some tension. With those especially, experience your desire that each be free from suffering, that each be free from fear, be free from hatred, be free from greed. And now, allow to appear in larger concentric circles, just acquaintances. And you might know. And just let the beam of loving kindness just flow through them as well. Just notice it never appears randomly in your mind's eye. And sending them loving kindness as well, allowing them to be part of this larger circle. And experience how much you want for them to be free from suffering, free from confusion, free from fear, free from hatred. And notice how much you want for all beings to be happy and finding peace. Now beyond them, in concentric circles that get wider and wider, just allow all beings to appear. Everyone with whom you share this planet, although you have not met, your lives are connected in ways you might not even know. To all these beings, just send them the same powerful current of loving kindness. And notice, feel your desire, your intention that all beings be free from fear and hatred, greed, confusion. Just allowing all beings to be free and released from suffering. Now, with our imagination, Let's now move beyond our planet. Just taking your mind to the universe, maybe into other solar systems, other galaxies. And notice the current of loving kindness in your heart and how it is not affected by physical distance. And you can direct it now like a beam of light to all centers of consciousness and to all beings everywhere. Directing your heartfelt wish that they too be free from fear and greed, hatred, confusion. Be free from suffering. May all beings be happy. Now, as if from out there, from that interstellar distance, we turn and behold our own planet, our home. We see it suspended there in the blackness of space, blue and white, jewel planet, just turning in the light of its sun, and slowly approach it, drawing near, returning this part of it, this region, this place. And as you approach this place, let yourself see the being you know best of all, the person that has been given you to be in his or her lifetime. You know this person better than anyone else does. You know its pain, hopes, its need for love, and how hard she tries. Let the face of this being, your own face, appear before you. Speak your name and experience with that same strong energy, this loving kindness, how deeply you desire that this being be free from fear, released from greed and hatred, liberated from confusion, and be free from suffering. And now notice this loving kindness linking you to all beings, now directed to your own self. And just notice the fullness of it. And just notice the sensations in your body. And just notice this journey we want to do. Very, very gently, taking in a deep, deep breath. Slowly noticing sensations in your body. feet, your arms, your hands. You can move them. Very gently coming back. Taking a deep breath, opening your eyes whenever you're ready. If you have them closed. And just coming back here and now. I really hope this little meditation is useful and that you enjoyed it and that you are now a beaming light of loving kindness, and just notice that sensation of giving that love and to yourself and the connection, how connected we are with everything beyond our planet, our universe, our galaxies. Just notice how that feels to be so connected with everyone. So whenever you get a sense of loneliness, you can try this out and see what happens. Well, it was a pleasure to talk with you. If you have any questions, I'm always available. You can email me, you can call me. My information is on my website, on my Facebook page, and you can always find me. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, goodbye.